From the Yonkers Statesman, October 14, 1916. Headline: Germans made counterattacks. Recapture trenches from the French. British advance at Struma stopped. The struggle in the Somme region, renewed violently with a heavy Anglo-French attack on Thursday, which Berlin declares achieved virtually no success, is being kept up by the Germans themselves. Last night they counterattacked on the strong French line south of the Somme, reoccupying part of the village of Ablanclore and neighboring trenches. Paris asserts a French attack immediately followed, resulting in the recapture of all the ground the Germans had won. There has been no further fighting north of the Somme, where the French claim an advance on Malaise Ridge. The cessation of important operations along the British front east of Struma River in Macedonia is indicated by today's official statement, which announces nothing has occurred worth reporting. In Paris, Norman Prince of Boston, Sergeant Major in the Franco-American Aviation Corps, who was decorated last week for distinguished service, has been wounded, but his condition is reported to be satisfactory. Headline: To test 15-day ordinance. Many inquiries have been made regarding the next move in the Yonkers trolley strike situation. A deadlock still confronts the public with no immediate prospect of settlement. And, according to men prominent in labor circles, the only solution to the problem is a test by the railroad company of the validity of the 15-day ordinance requiring local experience of 15 days before a man can legally operate a streetcar. A prominent citizen who is in a position to know intimated this morning that the company might test the validity of the statute in the near future. The one obstacle that apparently lies in the path of the accomplishment of this purpose is that the company has been unable to secure the services of an employee willing to face a probable sentence of 60 days in the county jail. If this test should be made, it was pointed out, and the ordinance declared invalid by a city judge, the man arrested for violation of the ordinance would, in the ordinary course of events, be freed of the technical charge. On the other hand, an appeal from the decision can be taken by the city as a corporation. There is a difference of opinion as to the man's legal status, should the appellate division overrule the decision handed down by the lower court. Some lawyers contend that the prisoner, freed under the first charge, could be rearraigned before the court if the ordinance is declared valid, on the ground that the defendant has never been tried as to the facts in the case, the original decision being purely one of the validity of the statute. Others assert that the defendant cannot be arraigned again unless there is a repetition of the same offense. If the 15-day ordinance should be declared invalid, and should this decision be affirmed by a higher court, the company will then be free to import men through agencies to operate its cars, providing they have had experience anywhere sufficient to make such operations safe for the public at large. If the police are unable to cope with the situation, the company will appeal to the sheriff and, if necessary, for state troops. And in an opinion column, Wilson's record of humiliation has not kept us out of war, but in war or its verge. He kept us out of war as the Democratic slogan has been laid aside. United States Senator Henry Cabot Lodge shows that we have been at war with Mexico several times since the Wilson administration began, and that American men, women, and children have been murdered, that American soldiers and sailors have been killed in 2 battles fought on Mexican soil, and that the advantage of the war for up to now has lain with the Mexican. Theodore Roosevelt summed up the Mexican situation in a paragraph. Quote, "In Mexico, while we have kept our own people unarmed, while we have forbidden our own soldiers to fire in return when they were fired at, we have furnished in turn every faction of the Mexican revolutionists, including whichever faction happened to be in or out of power at the moment, with arms which were used against our soldiers and for the murder of our civilians, not only in Mexico but within our own border as well." Unquote. The alternative of the Wilson policy was clearly stated by Charles E. Hughes, Republican candidate for president. Quote, "I think the alternative of the policy of the present administration is peace with honor. Only the most inexcusable blundering could drag us into strife." Unquote. And that's the news from Yonkers 1 or 2 years ago today.